All right, let's jump right in. For decades, the rules for getting seen online have been pretty simple. Get people to click your link. Well, that entire game is being torn up and rewritten as we speak. We are smack in the middle of this huge shift, away from a web of clicks and into a world of instant AI-powered answers. And today, we're going to break down the new rules for how to win.
So let's kick things off with a number that should really make you sit up and pay attention: 60%. Right now, 60% of all searches end without a single click to a website. Think about that. The user asks, the AI answers, and the conversation is over. This isn't some forecast for the future. This is happening right now.
And this chart, wow, it just shows you the sheer momentum. While traffic from good old traditional search is actually dropping, the traffic coming from generative AI sources has just exploded by an incredible 1,200%. The people aren't gone, They've moved to a new neighborhood.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question, the one we all have to answer. If the name of the game isn't getting a click anymore, then what is it? How do you get your brand, your ideas, your expertise in front of people if they never actually land on your website? Well, to figure that out, you first have to meet the new gatekeepers. And they're not the search engine crawlers we're used to. They're large language models, or LLMs. And believe me, they think in a completely different way. Probably the best way to think about an LLM is like this. It doesn't just scan for keywords. It actually reads and digests and understands information from billions of sources. So it's less like a librarian who points you to the right shelf and a lot more like a super genius researcher who's already read every single book in the library and is just ready to give you the perfect summary. And that right there is the fundamental change. Your job is no longer to be number one on a list of 10 blue links. No. Your new job is to make sure your information becomes a core part of that single, definitive answer the AI gives the user. It is truly a winner-take-all game now. Okay, so if you want to be the answer, you have to be seen as authoritative. But, and this is a big but, what an AI thinks is authoritative is worlds away from what search engines have been telling us for the past 20 years. So let's break down the old rules versus the new ones. On one side, you've got Google's classic framework, EEAT. That's experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. Think of this like a human referee, looking for outside signals to prove you're legit. And on the other side, you have LLM authority. This is more like an AI pattern matcher, analyzing the words themselves for clues. So Google's EEAT is trying to answer questions like, has the author actually done this thing? Do they have a degree? Are other big-shot websites linking to them? You see, it's all about external validation, stuff that happens outside of the actual article. But an LLM, it figures out who's an authority in a totally different way. And what's really fascinating is what's missing. It asks things like, does this sound like an expert wrote it? Is the topic covered in exhaustive detail, what we call semantic richness? And does this info line up with what other trusted sources say? Notice what's not on that list? Backlinks, not a single mention. All right, so we get the theory. Now let's get into the good stuff, the practical, tactical playbook. How do you actually write your stuff so these AI pattern matchers pick you? The single most powerful tactic by far is the question-answer format. It's so simple, it's beautiful. You take the exact questions your audience is asking, make those your headings, and then right underneath, you give a direct, to-the-point answer. You're basically spoon-feeding the AI exactly what it's looking for. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The data on this is crystal clear. A study out of Princeton found that content using this direct Q&A style was 40% more likely to be picked up and used by AI tools. That is a huge edge. So, what's the perfect recipe? It's a simple 3-step process. 1, make your heading a question. 2, in the very first paragraph, answer that question directly. Make it so that paragraph could be copied and pasted and still make perfect sense on its own. 3, then, and only then, do you go on to elaborate with all your details, context, and examples. Here's another game changer. Back everything up with hard data. LLMs are built to find and prioritize facts, stuff that can be verified. When you include specific stats and cite your sources, your content just looks more credible to the AI. In fact, studies show that just adding concrete numbers can boost your chances of getting featured by almost 30%.
But look, optimizing one article at a time is only playing half the game. The real long-term strategy, the way you truly win, is by playing a much deeper game. It's about moving beyond just writing good content and becoming what's called an AI-recognized entity. So what on earth does that mean? It means the AI is learning to connect the dots. It's not just looking at one page on your website anymore. It's actively trying to build a profile of you or your company to figure out who you are and where you fit into the grand scheme of things. In the world of AI, an entity is just anything it can uniquely identify. A person is an entity, a brand is an entity, a specific product is an entity. So your ultimate goal is to teach the AI over and over that your name is the number one most authoritative entity for your specific topic.
So how do you do that? You build something called a semantic footprint. This means making sure your name, address, and company details are exactly the same everywhere online. It means using structured data, that's a little bit of code called Schema, to literally spell out for the AI who you are. And it means building deep libraries of content on your topic and getting mentioned elsewhere, so the AI sees your name pop up next to your area of expertise again and again and again.
This quote just perfectly nails the entire shift. The fight isn't about chasing down backlinks anymore. The real battle is creating a body of work that is so deep, so consistent, and so genuinely useful that its value is just obvious to both people and the AI. So as we wrap this up, this is the question you really have to ask yourself and ask your team. In this new world, are you still making content that's designed to get a click? Or are you ready to start making content that's designed to be the answer? Because in the age of AI search, those are two very, very different things.